on a major debt deal earlier this week.
All these problems were gathering all at once. And we knew the road ahead was going to be difficult, that the climb was going to be steep. I had to admit I didn't know how steep the climb was going to be. But we did what we needed to do to start getting the economy growing again, and it has been growing. Not as fast as we want, but we got the economy growing. When I said change we can believe in, I didn't say change we can believe in tomorrow.
He said it's going to take time. All right, let's talk about it with Mark Thiessen, former speechwriter for George W. Bush and Washington Post columnist, and Robert Hoops, former advisor to Vice President Biden and president of public affairs firm Vox Global. Great to see you both, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Mark, you know about speechwriting and getting a message across, but I got to say, it seems like this administration, at times this president seems weary of having to make the same points over and over again about the economic recovery.
Well, the problem is there is no economic recovery. And by the way, I just want to wish you all a very happy first anniversary of the recovery summer of 2010. If you'll recall, a year ago, they were campaigning all across the country talking about how the $830 billion stimulus bill was working. Well, here we are, and a year later, and the stimulus, we've lost 1.8 million jobs since the stimulus was passed and enacted into law. And last week we learned, the president says the economy is growing. Last week we learned that they downward revised the first quarter growth from 2%, which is anemic, to 0.4%, which is almost non-existent. So I think the president's going to have a very hard time campaigning on a theme of mourning in America.
Well, and Robert, I mean, this president did say last night, we've tried a lot of things. The economy is starting to come back. They've denied there's a threat of a double-dip recession. How much longer do you think they can continue forward with that message? You got to imagine they don't have a choice but saying anything else but that.
Well, look, the best messages in Washington are the ones that happen to be true. And the president, in this case, has the truth on his side. He has said from the very beginning, from election night, this is going to take time, this is going to be hard, and it's going to require partnership. And look, I think the vote this week in the Congress is the first bipartisan vote on a major piece of domestic policy in this country since the president's been elected. It's going to be very interesting when these members of Congress go home. Republican members of Congress go home, Democratic members of Congress go home. They now own this next phase of the recovery. You wanted $2.4 trillion in cuts. You want to pull $1 trillion out of the economy. Well, now we're all in this together. So it'll be very interesting to see what these members hear when they're back in their districts from their constituents.
Yeah, Mark, do you think that Republicans and Democrats alike are going to own whatever happens, whatever results from the debt deal?
Let's put this in perspective. 5 months ago, President Obama issued a budget that tripled the national debt, raised it by $10 trillion over the next 10 years. We just learned today that we have, for the first time, our debt has exceeded 100% of the value of our economy of GDP, the first time ever. Now, this is a jobs issue, because when debt, studies show that when debt goes above 90% of GDP, we lose 1 to 2% of growth, and that's 1 to 2 million jobs, each percentage of growth. So the national debt that Obama wanted to triple and the stimulus bills that are fueling that debt is killing jobs in this country. So what we are doing is we're trying to pull back that debt and cut that debt so that we can get jobs growing again.
And Robert, I'm going to guess you disagree with what he has to say, and you say that the White House has the truth on its side. Even if it does, what about the public perception? Because that's what they've got to manage now, and the polls all show that people are very worried. They think the country's headed in the wrong direction, the economy's headed in the wrong direction. Where's the disconnect on the message and the facts?
Well, it's a great question. The fact is the president's approval rating is right around 48–50%. The congressional approval rating is right around 14%. There is a Washington problem. And I think it's interesting that Republicans always want to look backwards on Obama, but they don't want us to look backwards on Bush. So let's talk about looking forward and solutions. When Republicans come back from the August recess and start participating and making hard choices about how to govern. Because it's not a Democrat-Republican problem. It's a Washington problem right now. That's what the public is frustrated about. Then maybe we can start to legislate thoughtfully and in a bipartisan way. Interestingly, too, it's interesting to watch the Republican candidates for president. I don't know if there's 8 or 18 of them now, but there is sort of an ideological chaos in the Republican Party right now. Boehner lost 25% of his confidence in the vote on the debt ceiling. The Tea Party Republicans in the House were split almost 50-50. And the Republican candidates for president are sort of all over the place. So if this were an easy problem, it would have been solved a long time ago. It's complicated,
It
and
is
that requires
complicated.
hard work.
It is complicated, and the polls show people are plenty frustrated with Washington as a whole. Excellent points from both of you gentlemen. Great to see you both today.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Alabama's newly passed immigration law coming under fire, and this time it's not just from the administration. Why more